The US has presented its proposals on its highly anticipated nuclear deal with Iran. Both sides have held 5 rounds of talks so far. The last one in Rome had ended without an agreement. Report states that the current proposal document forwarded by US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff contains suggestions for the creation of a regional consortium to produce nuclear power for Iran alongside Saudi Arabia and other Arab states. Responding to US's proposal, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran will respond in line with the principles of national interest and the rights of people of Iran. In a separate statement, Araghchi said Iran will not accept dominance by anyone.
They tell us not to enrich because they are worried, but should the Iranian people give up their rights just because others are worried? This is unacceptable to the Iranian people, because it means accepting the domination of others, whether we need enrichment or not, and we do need it.
The US proposal comes at a time when the IAEA has released a report saying Iran is ramping up its uranium enrichment. The IAEA report says Iran now possesses over 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity, which is close to the 90% purity required for weapons-grade uranium. Tehran has repeatedly argued that it wants nuclear energy for civilian use, but most nuclear power reactors require uranium to be enriched from 0.7% to 3 or 5%. That is way below the current capacity that Tehran has reportedly developed, raising concerns about Tehran's real intentions. Iran maintains its program is peaceful. Iranian state media has described the IAEA report as politically motivated, containing baseless accusations. Tehran says it will implement appropriate measures in response to any actions taken against it by the IAEA. Soon after the IAEA released its report, Israel raised alarm over Tehran's intentions, stating that Iran is determined to acquire nuclear weapons. Israeli Prime Minister issued a statement saying such a level of enrichment exists only in countries actively pursuing nuclear weapons and has no civilian justification whatsoever. Iran is reportedly yet to develop a weapon that could carry a nuclear warhead, but Israel has repeatedly threatened it that it is prepared to launch its own military attack against Iran's nuclear facilities. US President has so far convinced the Israeli Prime Minister to hold back, pending the result of the US-Iran negotiations. And joining us now is Fouad Izzadi, who's an Associate Professor, Faculty of World Studies, University of Tehran. Mr. Izzadi, thank you very much for making time for us. What do you make of these talks between Iran and the United States, and now that President Donald Trump has asked Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to back down, do you think he will back down?
I don't think so. Mr. Netanyahu has been saying for the last 25 years that Iran is 6 months away from building a nuclear weapon, and obviously he has been lying for the last 25 years. And he's not going to give up pressuring the US government. He wants to have a military confrontation between Iran and the United States. He wants to fight Iran using American soldiers. And unfortunately, because of the Israeli lobby and because of the influence they have in the US Congress and other places in the United States, they have had a lot of pressure on US policy, a lot of success in leading the US policy towards Iran. And they continue to have that pressure and that influence. And as long as you have this type of setup in the United States, where Israeli lobby can have such an enormous influence, then you are going to basically have these difficulties continue. Whenever Iran and US want to get closer in terms of normalizing relations or lowering tensions or reaching an agreement, you have the Israeli Prime Minister, the Israeli lobby causing difficulties.
As a professor, Do you see some light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to talks between the United States and Iran?
You know, the US president says that all he wants is for Iran not to have a nuclear weapon. And what Iran has been saying is that Iran does not want to have a nuclear weapon. So on the surface, things should not be that difficult because both sides say the same thing. The problem, I think, arises when you have the influence of the Israeli lobby. The problem arises when you have some people in the US government wanting more. So, for example, they say that Iran should not enrich at all, zero enrichment. And the reason they say that is that if they have an enrichment capacity, sometime in the future they may build a bomb. The problem with that argument is that they're punishing Iran and sanctioning Iran for something that Iran has not done. They're punishing Iran for something that Iran may do sometime in the future. And we had the report of the US intelligence community a couple of months ago. It's available online. The site is Director of Intelligence, DOI.gov. And that report of the US intelligence community says three things about Iran. It says that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon now. It says that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon program. And it says that the Iranian leaders have not decided to have a nuclear weapon program. So if you trust what the US intelligence community says, then you shouldn't have any difficulty reaching an agreement. But we should remember it was the same administration, the Trump administration, that left the previous nuclear agreement. And it's very difficult to bring the United States back to some sort of an agreement, because I think the problem that they have is with the government of Iran, and they use the nuclear issue, other issues, as an excuse to pressure on Iran.
All right, let's see how that pans out. Professor, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for talking to us today.